When it comes to building genuine connection and intimacy, especially with someone you're romantically or sexually interested in, words matter, but not just any words. Often we default to familiar phrases like "you're beautiful," thinking that's the highest compliment we can give. While the intent behind it might be good, the impact is often limited, especially if the goal is to create a lasting emotional impression or spark deeper intimacy. Here's why. When someone hears "you're beautiful," it can land flat because it's so widely used. It's generic. It doesn't tell her anything about what you actually see in her. It's like giving someone a greeting card instead of a handwritten note. It might be nice, but it lacks the depth and personal investment that makes a woman feel truly seen. Women in particular are often highly attuned to the emotional quality of the words they hear, especially when those words are coming from someone they're considering being vulnerable with, either emotionally or physically. Compliments that merely describe physical appearance without emotional context often feel superficial. They can even raise questions like, does he say that to every woman, or does he actually know anything about me beyond how I look? That's why connection and validation go much deeper than surface level compliments. When you're genuinely present with someone, when you observe the small things and reflect them back with sincerity, it signals something incredibly important: emotional safety. And that emotional safety is the real gateway to intimacy. Instead of saying "you're beautiful," imagine you said, "the way you talk about your work makes me feel so drawn to you. Your passion is magnetic." That kind of statement goes beyond her appearance. It shows that you're listening, paying attention, and valuing who she is, not just how she looks. Or maybe it's something simple but precise, like when you walked into the room tonight, your energy shifted. That lands differently because it's personal. It's rooted in your actual experience of her. That's how you start building emotional resonance. And this isn't just a romantic theory, it's supported by psychology and relationship science. Studies consistently show that emotional intimacy and perceived emotional availability are key drivers of sexual desire in many women. It's not just about visual attraction, it's about how connected and safe she feels with the person expressing interest. If your compliments help her feel seen in a meaningful way, she's much more likely to feel open, relaxed, and drawn to you emotionally. And yes, sexually as well. There's also something to be said about intention. When you say "you're beautiful," is your intention to flatter her, to boost her confidence, to get her attention? If it's not backed by genuine emotional engagement, she may sense that disconnect even if she doesn't call it out. On the other hand, if your words are coming from a place of honest admiration and presence, they'll carry weight even if they're simple. Let's take another example. Imagine she just finished telling you a story about a challenging moment in her life. Instead of jumping in with "you're so strong," which again is fine but vague, say, "It means a lot that you shared that with me. I can see how much you've grown from it, and it's honestly inspiring." That's emotionally validating. It reinforces trust. It shows that you're with her in that moment, not just spectating. This kind of language builds what's called psychological intimacy, the feeling that someone not only understands you, but actually cares about how you think, feel, and experience the world. That's incredibly attractive. And it lays the foundation for a much deeper kind of sexual connection than any pickup line or physical compliment ever could. So it's not that you should never say "you're beautiful." It's just that if that's all you're saying, you're missing the opportunity to build something much stronger. Use your words to show that you see her, not just her face or her body, but her mind, her energy, her story, the way she moves through the world, the way she makes people around her feel. When you do that, something shifts. She starts to feel emotionally recognized. And that, more than anything, is what makes someone feel safe enough to open up emotionally and physically It's not about manipulation or strategy. It's about genuine human connection. And when you give her that, the attraction becomes mutual, grounded, and much more powerful than words alone. When you compliment a woman, one of the most important things you can do is be specific. Specific affirmations don't just feel more sincere, they actually build emotional intimacy, trust, and desire. Generic compliments like "you're so sexy" or "you're beautiful" might be pleasant to hear in the moment, but they often fade quickly. They don't stay with someone because they don't speak to who she really is. They're like fast food, easy, but not nourishing. Now think about the difference when someone says to you, "I love the way your eyes light up when you talk about something you care about." That compliment is rooted in observation. It's proof that the person is paying attention, not just looking, but seeing. It tells you that they're tuned in to your energy, your emotions, and your presence. That kind of attention builds trust and attraction far more effectively than any overused compliment. This distinction is crucial when it comes to building sexual chemistry. Desire isn't just about visual appeal. For many women, especially, it's about emotional presence and psychological connection. When you make a compliment specific, you're not just making her feel attractive, you're making her feel understood. That emotional understanding is what truly draws people in, and it's what makes physical connection feel safe, exciting, and deeply fulfilling. Let's explore a simple example. Instead of saying, "You looked amazing tonight," consider saying, "That dress you wore tonight, it brought out this quiet confidence in you that was incredibly sexy. I couldn't take my eyes off the way you carried yourself." See how much more weight that carries. It connects her appearance to her behavior, to how you experienced her. It turns a generic observation into a shared emotional moment. Even better, it reminds her that you're not just noticing her body, you're noticing her being, the way she exists in space, her presence. That's the kind of compliment that lingers in her mind. It's the kind of thing she'll replay long after the conversation is over. And this isn't just about sex or attraction, it's about emotional resonance. When a woman feels genuinely seen, her nervous system relaxes. She feels safe, validated, and appreciated. That's the emotional foundation that allows her to feel fully open mentally, emotionally, and physically. When you consistently show her that you're observing her in thoughtful, specific ways, you create a space where real intimacy can grow. There's also a neurological aspect to this. Our brains are wired to respond to novelty and emotional salience. When something feels new, personal, or emotionally rich, it sticks. That's why saying something unexpected but real can have such a powerful effect. Try something like, "I love the way you always pause and think before you speak." It makes every word you say feel deliberate and grounded. That's a specific affirmation of her character. It speaks to something she may not even realize is attractive about her. But now that you've said it, she'll never forget it. This kind of specificity doesn't require poetry or perfect timing. It just requires presence. You have to be willing to slow down, notice the details, and reflect them back with honesty. When you do that, your words stop sounding like a script and start sounding like truth. That's when they land deeply. And it's important to remember this level of affirmation shouldn't just be reserved for romantic or sexual partners. Everyone benefits from being seen in a specific, authentic way. But when it comes to someone you're hoping to build a romantic connection with, it becomes even more essential. Because in those moments of intimacy, whether physical or emotional, a woman is constantly asking herself, is this person really here with me? Or are they just here for what they want from me? Your specific affirmations answer that question clearly. I see you, I'm here with you, and I'm drawn to who you are, not just what you look like. That's the difference between a compliment that passes and a compliment that pulls her closer. Another example, let's say she's talking about something vulnerable, maybe a fear or insecurity, rather than reassuring her with a broad, "You're amazing, don't worry," try something like, "I admire how honest you are about what you're feeling." Most people hide that part of themselves, but you don't. That's incredibly powerful witness. That kind of affirmation doesn't just soothe, it builds intimacy. It tells her you're paying attention to her emotional world, not just her surface. Ultimately, specific compliments are about attunement. They show emotional maturity, empathy, and presence. They create a feedback loop where she feels valued, not just for her appearance, but for her energy, her thoughts, her values. And that's what leads to deeper connection and desire. So if you want to be memorable, not just physically, but emotionally, learn to speak to what makes her her. Say what you notice, not what sounds good. Make your compliments less about what you think she wants to hear and more about what you truly see. That's how attraction becomes real. That's how desire becomes mutual. And that's how you shift from surface level interest to genuine intimacy. When it comes to creating true sexual attraction, it's important to understand that it rarely begins at the surface level. For many women, desire isn't something that instantly ignites from a compliment or a physical gesture. It builds gradually, and it builds through something far more powerful than just physical appearance or words. It grows through emotional safety, trust, and authentic desire. Without those elements, even the most physically attractive person can feel distant or unappealing. But when a woman feels genuinely seen, respected, and emotionally safe, her body and mind become more open to intimacy in a natural and deeply satisfying way. There's a common misconception that sexual attraction is purely visual or physical, especially for men who may experience arousal more quickly and in response to external cues. But for many women, arousal is much more context dependent. It's deeply rooted in how she feels in your presence. Does she feel comfortable being herself? Does she feel like you're really tuned into her or just going through motions to get something in return? This is where psychological safety becomes a core part of building desire. Emotional safety doesn't mean you're being overly soft or passive. It means you're consistent, emotionally present, and able to hold space for her to be vulnerable without judgment. That kind of safety creates an environment where her nervous system can relax, and that relaxation is crucial for physical arousal. When a woman feels emotionally safe, her body naturally follows. Tension releases, trust deepens, and the desire for closeness begins to flourish. Authentic desire is also key. There's a difference between wanting someone and performing attraction. Women often pick up on the subtle signs of inauthenticity. If your interest feels transactional, like you're saying the right things to get physical access, she'll sense that even if your words are polished. But if your desire comes from a real place, a genuine connection to her mind, her energy, her essence, it's magnetic. Because when a woman feels not just desired, but desired for who she is, the psychological intimacy fuels physical attraction. Let's take a scenario. Imagine you're spending time with her, and instead of rushing into compliments or flirtation, you're actually paying attention. You notice how she thinks, how she moves, the way she pauses before answering a serious question. And when you reflect that back to her, not in a forced or rehearsed way, but in a grounded, sincere tone, it makes her feel acknowledged, not as a target, but as a person. That moment of emotional recognition is incredibly powerful. It builds the foundation for true connection, and from that foundation, sexual desire becomes something mutual and naturally reciprocal. This kind of connection also rewires what she associates with attraction. If every time she's around you, she feels emotionally safe, intellectually engaged, and physically respected, her brain starts linking you with those pleasurable experiences. That's the chemistry most people are searching for. And you don't create it with empty compliments or surface level flirting. You create it by being genuinely present, grounded, and emotionally honest. There's also a biological component. When a woman feels emotionally secure, her body produces more oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding and trust. That same hormone plays a role in sexual arousal and orgasm. If she feels emotionally disconnected or anxious around someone, oxytocin levels drop and it becomes harder for her to feel physically responsive. This is one reason why emotional safety is not just nice to have. It's essential for many women's sexual responsiveness. Her body wants to feel like she's in a place of trust before it opens up to deeper levels of intimacy. And so, how do you cultivate this kind of emotional and psychological safety? It's about consistency, being present without pressure, listening without trying to fix or redirect, expressing your own vulnerability in small, honest ways, not needing to control the pace or outcome of the interaction, respecting her boundaries without making her feel guilty. These behaviors create the kind of environment where intimacy can deepen organically without force or manipulation. It's also about self-awareness. Ask yourself, am I really interested in her as a person or just in what I hope to get from this connection? Am I observing and appreciating her complexity or just focusing on what she can do for me? Women don't want to feel like they're being evaluated for performance. They want to feel chosen, valued, and safe to explore intimacy at their own pace. Authentic desire also means being willing to wait. Not in a passive way, but in a grounded, confident way that says, I want you, but I also want you to want me. I care more about connection than control. That kind of mindset is rare and deeply attractive, shows maturity, emotional intelligence, and strength. Ultimately, sexual desire isn't something you create by pushing for it. You cultivate it by creating the right emotional and psychological environment for it to emerge. And when it does, it's far more powerful than anything forced or faked. It's real, it's mutual, and it's the kind of connection that leads to not just intimacy, but to a lasting, fulfilling sexual relationship.